I'm joined tonight on Sounds of the 80s by Bill Sharpe from Shack Attack. Hey, Bill.
Hi there.
Thanks for introducing me to Shack Attack.
Well, it's a pleasure. We probably started before you were born.
Yes. Actually, I ought to say I've not got a Sharpe's age. I don't think you started before I was actually born. I think I'd have been a few years old. So, late 70s. Tell us where you came from. I know you studied music at Birmingham Uni, is that right?
That's right, yeah. I kind of had a classical music upbringing, so to speak, but I played a bit of jazz too. But when I left uni, weirdly enough, my first job, my only job actually, was working for the BBC.
Oh, it's a great place, isn't it?
So my sister worked for the BBC, and you leave uni, and I was like, what am I going to do? And she said, why don't you get a job at the BBC?
Wow, and you were doing what for the BBC?
I was studio manager.
Okay. So, Shack Attack, the band itself, how was that born?
Well, it came out of two different bands, actually. I was playing in a band called Tracks, which was a jazz rock band.
Were you playing with Trevor Horn as well?
Trevor Horn was our bass player, yeah.
He did all right in the end, didn't he?
He's not too bad, he did quite well.
He's done all right.
Then he left. So we had that band, and then there was another band who used to play at a club called the Cat's Whiskers in Streatham, which was like a Mecca band. Mm. And Roger, our drummer, and Jill, and Nigel, who was our producer, they played in that band. And Roger introduced me to Nigel, and he'd had this idea of putting a band together, playing jazz funk music, because we love the Crusaders and Earth, Wind and Fire, George Benson, all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to do that kind of music, but as a British band.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff in America, so is that where you were looking towards and just thinking?
All the influences were from the States, all that kind of music, Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea. We kind of called it jazz funk.
Yeah.
And so we had this idea. I mean, there were other bands like Level 42, Imagination, Inversions, all sorts of different bands. And so this started off in the early 80s, kind of became this Brit funk thing, which we were sort of part of. But our thing was a little bit different because it was all instrumental in the early days.
Yeah. Was it strange in the 80s being sort of surrounded by so much, there was so much great pop music and then there was the New Romantics and then you were doing this jazz funk thing? Were people quite open-minded to it, did you find?
I think there were certain camps, really. I mean, there was definitely the New Romantic camp, there was the Brit Funk camp, and there were other camps. And I think, in a way, Brit Funk has slightly got overlooked when people look back at the 80s. Everybody talks about New Romantic and Spandau, Duran Duran, all that stuff. Ours was kind of less fashion-based. You
said you were instrumental, you were largely instrumental, and then Jill came along. Is that the right order of things?
Well, we had our first album was an album called Driving Hard.
Yes, that was in 81.
That was 81. And that was mainly instrumental. And we had sort of limited success. This is the sort of time when we were with Polydor Records, and they stuck with us for 2 years. We had 2 years of putting out singles.
See, that wouldn't happen now. No. It'd be like you'd have one shot at it, and then you're gone. If everything's just got to be new and fresh. What's new and But the name Shack Attack comes from. Is that from the Record Shack? Was that a smaller company that distributed your records initially?
In the very early days, we had a single out called Step In.
Yeah.
And we pressed up 500 white labels. And we had friends at the Record Shack in Soho, and I think Capital Radio at the time wanted to play this track.
Well, I've never heard of it. Have you heard of them? No.
I think it was Michael Aspel, or something. I think he was on then.
Oh, yeah, so he was one of the DJs, was he?
Big news, Michael Aspel. And they wanted to play this track. And at the time, I don't think we had a name. I wasn't around. I don't know who actually came up with it, but they took the Shack from Record Shack and made Shack Attack. And somebody phoned me and said, the band's called Shack Attack. And I thought, that sounds pretty good. And then it was in 82 when we put out this Easier Said Than Done, where we kind of thought we'd try the girl vocal thing. I actually wrote it originally as a song, but we had this idea, and I did the piano, and then we just did the girls on the chorus, and it just seemed to work. And that really developed into the sound that people kind of know as Shack Attack, I guess.
Lovely. We'll play it now. Easier Said Than Done from Shack Attack. Easier Said Than Done from Shack Attack. Bill Sharpe is here with us this evening. So that's from the album Nightbirds, and the track Nightbirds was pretty massive as well, wasn't it?
It was, actually. I mean, the little story. Nightbirds, we were recording the album in a studio, and Nigel, our producer, said, we need another single to go after Easier Said Than Done. He said, we're going to go down the pub, and you've got an hour, and you've got to write another song. So I'm like, okay then. So I sat there, and I came up with Nightbirds. The basic idea, had the melody, the middle bit, and the chorus and everything. And that night we routined it, went through it all, and we had it recorded and finished the next day.
Did he buy you a pint?
You didn't need to.
So the pattern developing like a penny for a scale and a pint to do a song.
Well, it
it's
works.
a reward system, yeah. But all those bits of music, are they just constantly in your head where you can kind of make yourself come up with a tune? How does it work?
I just sit. I still do, actually. I've got a piano at home, and I'll sit for a couple of hours a day, and I just love doodling.
So you and the band, you continue just having big success here, but also in Japan, like hugely popular in Japan. You had lots of albums in the 80s that were just for the Japanese market. Are you still popular there?
Yes, I mean, Nightbirds was the song that really took off in Japan. I mean, that was a massive album over there.
Why do you think you spoke to that audience specifically?
Well, I think maybe perhaps partly because it was sort of instrumental music. There wasn't necessarily a language thing, but a guy from our record company said, I asked him once, he said, why do you think that people like it? He said, well, I think your music appeals to traditional Japanese sensibilities. Still to this day, I mean, we're going out there, we go out there every year.
Do you know any Japanese? Can you say a few words to say, like, hi, welcome to the show?
Yeah, I say, konbanwa minasan, mata toki ni kurejirishi desu, sho tanashinde kudasai, otsukaresama deshita.
That's right. What is that, Nightbirds?
That's like, good evening, everyone. It's great to be back in Tokyo.
Nice.
We hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And at the end, I say, otsukaresama deshita, which means it's been a good time together.
Oh, it's very nice. Nice to make the effort. I guess after all these years, you've had time to practice, haven't you?
I've learned it phonetically.
Yeah.
But so if people start talking to me in Japanese, I haven't got a clue what they're saying.
You have to make your excuses and leave. So with a band like Shack Attack, is the 4 or 5 of you, you're the main band, and then you use lots of different musicians? How does it work?
Well, there's 4 original members. There's myself, Roger Odell, our drummer, Jill Sayward, our singer, and George Anderson, our bass player. And we've got 2 guitarists and a girl who plays saxophone and does backing vocals. And, if some of the guys can't make it, then we'll use other musicians. You've
just got to tell me about 1989 when the Berlin Wall...
Yeah, that was interesting, yeah.
I mean, amazing. So you played, there was a concert to mark the occasion
we played
of the wall coming down.
East-West kind of thing. So we've done a few of those, actually.
Wow.
I mean,
Did you get a piece of the wall? I know a lot of people...
Actually. We all went late at night. We all nicked a bit. It's just like breeze blocks, really. So
I reckon the authorities probably put a few extra lumps there, like, we're running out of the rock, quick, of the wall.
But that was amazing.
Yeah.
And we had another great experience was South Africa.
For the millennium?
No, well, before then, actually, in '93, we were the first band, actually, that played in South Africa after apartheid.
Wow.
So that was amazing to go out there.
I'm not losing my mind when I went, the millennium, but there was the big gig as well, wasn't there? That's 250,000 people.
Yeah, we did the millennium in Cape Town, which was fantastic.
Was it just in a massive park?
It was on the waterfront.
Wow.
In Cape Town, and they just did this whole amazing thing, and they had link-ups all over South Africa, and our part was the Cape Town section.
Wow.
So it was brilliant, really great.
We are going to end with one of your favourite tracks from the 80s. Was this a difficult task to come up with your favourite 80s track?
I would think anybody would struggle, because, I'd had a look through, because I was trying to remember, so I went, best top-selling 100 singles of the 80s, and I go, oh my God, I love that, I love that, I love that. But then I thought, probably it needs to be something that's got a relevance. So the track that I picked is a track called Morning by Al Jarreau, because I particularly, but all of us were massive fans from him from the mid-70s, because he's a great jazz singer. But then we actually got to make a record with him. In 1985, we did a record called Day by Day, which we recorded in New York, and we flew over there, and I'm standing there with Jill, and Jill and Al in the studio with Nigel, our producer then. I'm sitting in New York, working with Al Jarreau, and it's like someone who I'd loved for years and years, so it was a dream come true to work with him.
Somebody pinch me, it must have just been amazing.
Actually, and he was wearing the same, he had an album called Breaking Away, and he was wearing, when he walked in the studio, it was the same clothes he was wearing as on the album cover. So it's like he'd walked through the door into reality.
Out of the album,
yeah, it was a bit of a Disney moment.
Well, we'll play it now. It's Morning from Al Jarreau. And Bill, it's been great chatting to you. Thanks ever so much.
You too, Sarah. Thanks a lot.